Hello, if this is your first time here, I'm Ian, or Pixels at Dawn. So the best way to start this video is with a little bit of history. So, way back in the 90s, I was an Amiga owner. I owned Amiga for a little time until I had to sell it to buy another Amiga, get a A1200 from an A600, and then a little time later I had to sell that too to get a PC. And so ended my Amiga saga for the time being. And I've been bobbing around in the Amiga community for quite a while now, but just not owning an Amiga, running everything on emulation and doing all that good stuff, and nothing wrong with emulation, but there's nothing quite like the actual hardware. So I've been looking around for a little while now for an Amiga. Now I've got a bit of spare cash, and really the two things that have been holding me back have been the price. Prices are just going up and up, and the other thing is the space. I live in a relatively small place, and I don't really have that much space to set up a retro system sort of full time, which is what I'd want to do. But more recently I got around to thinking, well, I need to get an Amiga soon, or the prices are just going to go out of the atmosphere. Because it's not like there's going to be any more Amigas. There's only going to be less, and rarity kicks in at that point. So I went looking, and I've been looking for an A1200 for a little while now. But it just so happened I was poking around on Facebook Marketplace, as I happen to do now and again, and I saw this. And the interesting thing for me about this is, when I originally got my first Amiga, my A600 back in the day, it was the Wild, Weird and Wicked pack, which is what this is. Looked in good condition. The Amiga looked in good condition, and I just couldn't really resist having exactly the same Amiga as I had back in the day in box with all the games that I had back then. It just seemed like the stars had aligned. So I headed up to Manchester, which is a couple of hours' drive for me. I met up with a lovely young couple who were looking to get rid of their Amiga. We exchanged a bit of paper money, and I brought it home. This video is to give you a little bit of a view of what happened next. So, a bit of an overview of getting the Amiga up and running. Hope you enjoy. If you've got any questions, obviously stick them in the comments, and I will see you in a short while. Okay, so let's get this thing unboxed in my oven box of a conservatory, shall we? That's what we got. So this is the lovely Wild, Weird and Wicked box. It's in really good nick, actually. I'm really happy about it. Let's open it up. So, straight up, we've got a mouse mat. I'm sure that'll come in handy. And a nice dust cover, which needs a little bit of clean, but that'll keep everything nice and covered from dust. Of course, using the Amiga workbench, fantastic. Pretty good condition. It's actually got some notes in here as well, I noticed, so I'll have to have a look through what's been written in here. Very good condition. And of course, introducing the Amiga 600, a starter's guide. in this little important package, we've got Woodworth discs. So I've got the Woodworth book elsewhere. We'll have a look at that in a bit. But yes, Woodworth, nice. Of course, the important bubble wrap. Probably a bit past its prime. And then all the cables that we'll be needing. So, quick open. So you've got the Amiga power pack, obviously. Nice mouse, fairly basic joystick, RF lead, and that's about it, I think. Yes. So put that over there. And the star of the show, of course. Still in its polystyrene packaging. The Amiga 600. Fantastic. It's in really good condition, actually. The actual case is not really yellowed at all. It's not really even that dusty. It's in pretty good condition. The RF shield on the back is still not rusted or anything like that, so that's pretty nice. It's just really the keys which need maybe a little bit of retro brighting or something like that. But yeah, in great condition. Happy days. Okay, so let's see what else we've got with this. So, an excellent copy of Deluxe Paint 3, of course. Not bad condition. I might try and straighten the box out a bit, maybe. But the King Tut on there, as always. Happy to have that back in my possession. A nice copy of Formula 1 Grand Prix. Jeff Crammond's excellent piece of software, which will no doubt not run particularly well on a 600, but no matter. We've got one of my favourite puzzle games ever, Pushover. See if we can get that to actually focus. Focus. There we go. Lovely. Also we have a copy of Putty. Called Putty in this case, not Silly Putty. Nice piece of kit. There's the Woodworth instruction book I told you about earlier. Very nice. We've got a copy of Award Winners. I never had this back in the day. But it has Kickoff 2, Space Ace, Pipe Mania and Populous on there. So, not a bad little collection there. Not bad at all. We've also got just in case I need to brush up on some of my academic skills, Fun School 4, with I can add and subtract departure times now. Excellent. And also there's quite a nice, actually, Commodore disc pouch. Quite happy to get that. Let's open it up and see what we've got inside. So, straight up, I don't know why D-Paint's there, but it's there. That's the program disc. There's your extras disc for Workbench, 2.05. Copy of the fonts disc. Oops. Come on, come out. Star Driver. I don't know what is that. I don't know whether that's a game or is it drivers for the Star line of printers. Could be. Don't know. Comes from Barrow in Furness in Cumbria though, so a little bit of a classic PD action there. Workbench, of course. Can't go far without that. Quite a lot of these are just backup copies of the Workbench discs. Woodworth extras there. Get that in view there. A copy of Transrite Junior. I never realised there was a junior version of this. Get this to focus so you can actually see. There we go. Transrite Junior. I had a copy of Transrite with my Amiga back in the day. But it was just a full version of Transrite, as I recall. More Woodworth copy backup discs. Copy of Workbench. Copy of Woodworth. Yeah. A fully legitimate copy of the Chaos Engine, of course. Oops, don't do that. Randomly a demo of Legends of Valor there. Let's see if we can get a few of them on these out. Of course, the important Postman Pat, Snakes and Ladders, Ludo and Snap. All the famous Amiga games we have there. What else have we got here? A copy of Scribble. I don't know what that is. And we've got two one Amiga cover discs. Come on, you can do it. Camera, focus. There we go. Nice demo of Alien Breed 2. Brian the Lion and Bob's Bad Day. So that's December '93 cover discs. Cool. Well, I suppose I'd better tell you what happened next, because I didn't record it for reasons that will become obvious. So I set up the Amiga on my big TV in my living room, and I turned it on, and not a great deal happened. But I gave it some time, and after a while it did boot up, and here's a picture of it loaded up on my my TV at the classic Kickstart boot screen. And I was also able to load the game, so here's a picture of Lemmings on the go. But the problem I was having was it was taking an inordinately long time to reboot. So I'd do a Control Amiga reset, and it would just sit there for minutes, like 6, 10, 15 minutes. It's like, well, something clearly not right here, which is why in the background you'll see me dismantling my Amiga and having a good old look inside. After a bit of research, it turns out probably a capacitor issue, which is no great surprise. It's an old system. I don't think it's been used that much, but capacitors wait for no man. So what I did was I packaged it up. I sent it off to Steve at Amiga Passion, down south in England, and he kindly recapped my board for me, and that allowed me to get on with things. So yeah, this is just me having a fiddle around inside the Amiga and putting it in a box and bidding farewell for a few weeks. So let's carry on from there. Okay, so while my motherboard is away getting a little bit of a TLC, it's time to give the rest of the Amiga a bit of attention. So you'll be able to see that the actual case itself is actually not really yellowed at all, so don't really need to do any work there other than giving a good non-abrasive clean. But the keyboard is a bit of a different matter. It's a little bit yellowed here and there. So I've never done retro brighting before, but I may give that a go. But let's give everything a good clean first, and then we'll see where we are. Cool. Okay guys, it's retro brighting time. All the keys are nicely cleaned off and dried off now, so it's time to try and apply some of the amazing magic material to them. A bit of 40% peroxide there. So just to demonstrate the difference, because not all the keys are equally yellowed. We've got the Z key here from the bottom right end of the keyboard, and the O from the top side of the keyboard, and you can see there's a really significant difference in the yellowing there that you can see from the side. So apparently I can retrobrite them all together and it will even out. I won't get a gradient of bleaching, so I'm going to give this a go and we'll see how it goes. Of course I'm in the UK, so battling the rain, hopefully I can get this done before the weather kicks off, but we shall see. Okay, and here's the finished result. It's clouded over a little bit recently while I've been doing it, but may not work as well, but we'll see how it goes. It is the UK after all. We have to expect these things. Okay, see you in a few hours. Bloody weather. Well, that's better. Let's give this another try, shall we? Okay, actual legitimate son, do your worst. There we go, hopefully you can see that it is somewhat better now. It's not perfect, but I think it's the best we're going to get. So cool. And here we go, back from its adventures at Amiga Passion. My Amiga 600 with brand new caps. Happily I've plugged this in now and it does work. No more boot problems. And it's looking pretty nice, if I do say so myself. There's the sticker from Steve to certify that it is all done. And let's have a look at the caps themselves. So there's a whole bundle of caps over by the RF modulator. In the corner there you can see you've got the smaller surface mounted ones and then the larger through hole ones. They're all brand new. And you've got another through hole over here. But there's another small service mounted one, and over in the corner here is actually what I think was causing my boot problems from what I've reviewed online. So this one right in the centre of the frame here is connected to this smaller chip. I forget which one, whether it's the one on the left or the right, but that's like a sort of timing circuit. Helps control the reset cycle. So if the cap connected to it is dodgy, that or takes a long time to charge, that's when you get the problems with the reset cycle, because obviously the capacitor's charging up and then discharging into the chip, I would imagine. Not that I know much about microelectronics, but I believe that's what it is. But you can see here with all these capacitors, I mean, here's some over here next to the keyboard connector. You can see the surface mounted ones are right in close to the connector, which is why as an amateur you don't really want to be recapping it yourself unless you're pretty confident, because you're not going to have a lot of room to move with the old soldering iron. So there you go. It's back, it's happy, and it's ready to go. But let's get it back in the case and then install a couple of upgrades, I guess. Okay, ladies and gents, it's time for some upgrades. So we've got the motherboard relocated back into the case. Just put the top of the case to one side. So things we'll be looking at today is putting in our sort of ID to compact flash card assembly, which will go onto the IDE header here. And we'll be putting in the 1 meg expansion, which I've never done this way up before. We'll see how it goes, which goes in the expansion slot here. And I might pop in the PCM CIA expansion just so you can see what happens from the inside out, because there's the connector just on the edge there. Everything else is all plugged in. We're all good to go, really. So let's get started with the important bit. So here's the old compact flash adapter. Now you've got your very short ribbon cable from the IDE header. It's already sort of insulated on the back of the PCB, so I don't have to worry too much about it shorting out, but I have applied a little bit more black insulating tape across the pins themselves just for safety's sake. I'm sure there'll be no problem, but you know, just in case. So let's get this installed. So it will just sit on the motherboard. I've taken out there would normally be a IDE sort of hard drive tray here, but I've taken that out entirely because it was kind of in the way. I could have rested this on top of it, but it's your own preference really. So let's just pop this on top here. It should go on fairly easily, I think. Yep. Slides quite neatly on top there. Cool. Okay, so that was nice and easy. Let's unpack our memory expansion. Right. Now once we've done this, we'll go and plug it all in its kind of temporary position in my living room and see what's what. So here we are with the memory expansion, so I think it goes in that way. Maybe I'm going to have to take out the what's it? Quite tight, the 600 expansion door. There we go. We got it. Without any damage. Okay. That's better. And there it goes. Very nicely into the case. We'll put the door back on afterwards, and the last bit was to put in the PCM CIA bit. Just to see how it fits really. So I think it goes this way up. Maybe not. Well, I don't know what was going on there. It was I unscrewed everything and put it back in, and now things seem to be a bit better. Maybe it was just not quite seated properly, but you can see there goes your nice PCM CIA card straight in there, and that's all our upgrades done. So the only thing now is to close it up, plug it in, and see how we go. So let's just get the bits and pieces back in place. So I'm not going to screw it all back together just yet, because I may have to take the hard drive CF card out at some point to copy some bits and pieces onto it, just until we get this PCM CIA interface working as we want it to. So let's just get the keyboard, pop that back into the old case, watch the LEDs. the keyboard ribbon very carefully back in. Plug in the LED power header. Oops, lost the eject button there. Now let's get this all back in place. There we go. My Amiga 600 back together. Right, so we're all set up in the Amiga's temporary position in front of the massive TV. I'm going to get this set up in my room later on, assuming all goes well. But let's give it a switch on and see how we go. Lights, that's a positive. White screen. Now, I'm hoping this will boot into the sort of prep menu to allow us to install Workbench, because apparently that's something that comes with Amiga kits discs, and it is doing something. There we go, Amiga kits. Right, welcome to OS install. Oops. Select operating system. So I guess it's going to be 2.0x for now anyway. I might pick up the Workbench 2.1 at some point, but for right now this will do. So next. Main system files are required for installation onto hard disk Acess. Insert your Workbench disk. Okay. Workbench it is. One Workbench disk. Well, it's definitely booting and everything already, which is great. Click next. And away we go. Copying Workbench files. So I'm assuming the disks work fine, but I guess we'll find out. I have no idea how long this will take. Looks like the answer might be a while, so maybe we'll come back in a little bit. Okay, just to elaborate a little bit of what went on here. So the OS install on Amiga kept working fine, but when I got around to the extras disk, it just wouldn't accept it. I could not figure out why. I had to quit out, and quitting out of the OS install meant that I couldn't get back into that OS install because it already had Workbench installed, so the hard disk would just boot straight up into Workbench with a few issues because it was missing a few bits here and there. As it turned out, what the problem was the original owner had copied the extras disk over the original extras disk, so it was the file name was copy of extras 2.0, meaning that the installer couldn't find the disk it was looking for, and hence it kind of fell over a bit at that point. So what I did was I opened up, took the CF card out, took it up to my PC, spent 2 hours trying to get my compact flash reader to actually work. But once I'd done that, I just basically wiped the compact flash card and started again from scratch. The other problem I'd run into was even that copy of the extras disk had some bad sectors on it and was no good. So I had to go and download some 2.05 versions of the Workbench discs, which I did, and I installed those onto my hard drive, compact flash, hard drive, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing from the Amiga's point of view. So that was how I got around that, because I was able to boot with Workbench, but you could tell it wasn't quite happy, and I wasn't sure. I think the installer is just a case of copying the contents of the disk onto the hard drive, but I couldn't be 100% sure. I wanted to run the proper installer, so I did that. And we got it all on there. So I spent a few nights doddering around in WinUAE using my compact flash to boot from, and copying a load of bits and pieces on there from various sources, mostly Aminet, and it's pretty much ready to go. So I will put it back in my Amiga, and we will play some games and such like various other things, I should think. So off we go again. So that's the whole tale. Okay, I've got another thing to show you. Last minute upgrade. I now have some nice static SRAM in the PCMCIA slot. It's given me an extra 2 meg of fast RAM, bringing me up to 4 meg in total, which is just crazy amounts of RAM for an A600, to be quite honest. And just to prove that it works, let's go to the top of Workbench. Focus in, there we go. 2 meg graphics mem, 2 meg other mem. Cool. So now I can run a whole load more WHD load stuff, and everything's a lot more stable, shall we say. And it runs a bit faster as well. So cool. Happy days for the A600. My Amiga is all set up. As you can see, it works. I'm really happy. I'm going to set it up next to my PC so I can get to it within arm's reach when I'm in my computer space. And we'll go from there, really. I may even stream one day, I'm not sure. For now, it's just for me and just for getting things going and my own personal enjoyment. I want to have a go at a lot of productivity stuff like dpaint and other things like that. ProTracker, Optimed, all that kind of good stuff from back in the day. And I'll probably have a go at some of the newer games like Worthy and Power Glove and things like that, because they all look good as well. But yes, that's my future for the Amiga for right now. And I'm more than happy, as you can tell. If you've got any questions for me, if you want any advice about any of the things that I've done to get this up to scratch, please let me know in the comments. You can follow me on Twitter if you want to get a view of what's going on in the coming days. And hopefully I will see you around soon. So thanks for joining me. I've been Ian. You've been watching Pixels at Dawn. Goodbye.